All right, part two, just about ready to begin, of One Chimp and Friends of the Two Chimps Typing Podcast Network. And I've got my one friend chimp here joining us, Mr. Peter Murphy.
Hey man, how's it going?
Sans camera. I'm all right. How are you doing?
I'm good. I just
Wow. That is, that turned purple quickly. What the hell happened?
man, like no, well, like, do you ever get the riddle? Which would you rather fight? Like 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck? You know that riddle?
Well, I'm hearing about it now, but I understand it.
Yeah, well, like now imagine that with like Filipinos. Like she's got brothers and sisters.
Oh,
And
wow.
like there's like 100 of them, and they're really fucking small. They pack a punch.
Goodness gracious. My concern is that we've just lost some viewers.
Well, like we can still bring quality podcasting to the world. We just edit that part out.
Yeah, my hesitation, you're right. My hesitation is to take it seriously because I naturally want to keep everything light, but that looks like a pretty serious.
I can put on sunglasses.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's not like that's going away anytime soon, it appears.
But I can put on sunglasses.
You're like you're like that dog from the Little Rascals.
Right, yeah. Oh
my goodness.
Don't make me laugh.
Peter, yeah, right? My Lord. That was an amazing makeup job or something. My God.
I feel like I should put on sunglasses.
Well, well, Peter, that's the thing. Like, some people have a problem with maybe being stuck in a cupboard for 8 hours, and so that's an important lesson for all of us, really. I have to say.
I heard a story, and this is a story I heard in university of these guys in Dublin who went out drinking one night, and they were doing drugs, and they said that they hallucinated. Now I'm paraphrasing now. I can't remember the exact story, but they hallucinated that they went out and they stole like a goblin, and they were dancing with the goblin and having fun with the goblin, and then the goblin got angry, so they locked it in the cupboard. And in the morning when they sobered up, they heard this banging coming from the cupboard. And they'd kidnapped the fucking dwarf off the street. It turns out, like,
oh my God!
But in their stupor, they were convinced it was a goblin.
Yeah, I was thinking this was a work of fiction that you were spinning. This yarn that you were spinning that captured a goblin. What happens when and no, in fact, it's dwarf abuse. A real story
dwarf abuse.
Of dwarf abuse.
Dwarf abuse.
Oh my God, that's abduction,
No, you can go to jail for that. I didn't do it.
In America, you can get life in prison for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Man, I'm gonna have to put on sunglasses.
All right. So is Jake Chimp joining us, or what's the story here? So I should probably share. We talked about this briefly, and you're concerned about the metrics of the channel. So yeah. I mentioned earlier a story about Dave Grohl, and I hate these stories where you know somebody in your life who tells you a fantastical story about somebody really famous that they know, or that they worked with or some crazy thing like that. But
yeah.
And I'm about ready to start that story. So yeah. So, you know, when I was a teenager, I worked at a record store briefly, part-time, that Dave Grohl worked at. And at the time, Dave Grohl was a drummer, a hired drummer for a band called Scream, which was a DC hardcore band back in the early 80s. And so he was sort of in the last iteration of the band Scream, I guess probably before they folded. And they had recorded at least one album with Dave Grohl that was entitled ICYUOD. So it's the letter I, C, Y, yeah. So that was the name of their album. Anyway, and I had seen him play it a couple times. And so this very interesting story is that one night, me and my skinhead friends, we went to the Waxy Maxis, and this is a record chain that exists in the Washington metropolitan area. I don't think it exists any longer, but it was quite popular. It was like Tower Records was in California, very popular record store. So we went there one evening after school, and one of my friends, one of my skinhead puke friends, had stolen a bunch of albums and put them under his, well, he attempted to shoplift a bunch of albums and put them under his hoodie.
Yeah.
And the staff in the shop saw him do this. So surreptitiously, they had locked the front doors, and we were all in there sort of oblivious. And at the time, I think some of us knew what our friend was doing, but it wasn't clear to us. Maybe some of us were oblivious, but anyway, he attempted to leave the shop. Hey, Jake, glad you could join us right in the middle of the story. You missed the beginning, which is going to be interesting when you watch it. I can just share that with you right now.
Well, let's just do a quick recap.
Well, no, you'll just have to watch the beginning. What I'm telling now, though, is different. It's unrelated. It's a Dave Grohl story. And I was just saying how I hate whenever you know somebody in your life who tells you a fantastical story about a famous person that they know or met or interacted with. And in this case, the story is that I worked at the same record shop that Dave Grohl did before Dave Grohl was famous. So we're at the beginning of the story now. So anyway, at the time he was playing drums in a DC hardcore band called Scream, right? And he was a hired drummer. That wasn't a band that he formed or anything, but it was a band that he was in. And they had a modicum of success in the hardcore scene. And he had joined the band sort of as the hardcore scene had died and it was becoming the emo post-hardcore scene. Anyway, so that's out of the way. So one night, me and my skinhead friends were in this record shop that he worked at, but he wasn't working at that time, as far as I know. I mean, he wasn't on shift. And one of my friends had shoplifted a bunch of albums and had put them under his hoodie, right? So I'm retelling the story for the audience. And they had locked the doors because they had seen him do this. So they had secretly locked the doors, and he attempted to leave, but he was confronted by a worker in the shop and was like, hey, let me see what you got underneath your hoodie. And my friend was like, nah. And he's like, you got albums, you got records underneath your hoodie. I want to see it. So then my friend tried to break away from the guy and run out the front door. But the door was locked. So he like bounced off the door. And then all of us, like we all, you know, it got our attention. And basically we were the only people in there. It was probably me and 4 of my skinhead friends and my girlfriend at the time. And so they informed us that they were calling the police. And the staff in the record shop started going through the shelves, you know, and one of the girls announced, like, there's a cassette missing. It's a Dag Nasty cassette. So they were looking for the cassette and they couldn't find it. And my friend, he didn't have it on him. So they said, well, we're calling the police, you know, because we already busted him with concealment, and this cassette's missing. So when the police get here, they're going to search you guys, and whoever has the cassette, you're going to jail for shoplifting. So,
sorry, just pause you there. Peter, your nose is bleeding, I think.
Yeah, is it bleeding again?
Sorry, man.
Sorry.
Sorry, mate. Just thought I'd tell you. Yeah.
You
right?
That's part of the story, Jake. That's a different story. You already missed that part of the story.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So it relates to the earlier podcast. Generally,
fucking Filipinos.
So he needs
Manny Pacquiao bastards.
Especially since I have two cousins, which are Filipino American, and an aunt who's Filipina. And I lived in the Philippines. Great people and amazing food. Also, the drummer in my first successful hardcore band was Filipino. Anyway, back to the story of Dave Grohl, because we're putting this in the title. So anyway, the police come. Sure enough, a police officer comes, and they inform him that one of these cassettes is missing. And so he performs a frisk of all of us that are still in the shop, and they don't find the cassette. Okay. So while he's searching the people, I decide to ask the guy at the counter for an employment application. It's probably not the best time to do that when you're, associated
robbing them.
Somebody that's already shoplifted or attempted to shoplift. And I fill out the application and turned in, lo and behold, I get the job. But anyway, going back to that night, they couldn't find the cassette. So they released us, but they kept my friend. And we went out to the car, and my friend Vince was driving, and he starts up the car, and I hand him this cassette, and I said, here, pop this in. And he looks at the cassette and he's like, son of a bitch, this is the cassette they were looking for in the fucking store. You fucking stole the cassette. I said, yeah, I had it in my bomber jacket sleeve pocket. So I got the job, and later discovered that Dave Grohl was working at the same record shop that I did. But we never, as far as I remember, we never worked the same shift together. And years and years later, in the late 90s, I was in a hardcore band at the time. Of course, we called it an insane core band. And we used to rehearse. We rented a space where we rehearsed at. And the guy who owned that space and rented it out to us, he was another guy in like a famous hardcore band, metal band, MDC, a really popular band. If I'm remembering it right, he was in MDC, which is a really popular band of the time. And one night we were playing, because we rehearsed quite late at night, and these guys came in and interrupted right as we were finishing our rehearsal. And it was the members of Scream, and they were having a reunion gig, and they wanted to know if they could use my drum kit because it would save them time. My drum kit was already set up. Could they use my drum kit? And I was like, well, yeah. And so they started rehearsing, and then right towards the end of their rehearsal, Dave Grohl walks in and plays on my drum kit for a few minutes. And that's when we discovered that they were doing a reunion gig like the next night. So we were like, well, fuck, we got to get tickets. We got to go to this thing. So we did. We went to the show, and just like in the rehearsal, Dave Grohl didn't come out and play drums until like the last one or two songs, because by that time he had already been world famous for being in Nirvana. And he got in Nirvana because as a drummer in Scream, they were on like a tour, and they were on their West Coast leg of their tour and ran out of money. Like something happened and they went bust out there in LA where they had just played a show. What happens that Chris Novoselic and Kurt Cobain went to that show because they wanted to see Scream, and they headhunted Dave out of the band. And that is how the iteration of Nirvana that everybody knows, that's how that happened. And so that's just one of those stories I was sharing with Peter earlier today. And I said, hey, and Peter said, no, you got to Dave Grohl in the title of a video is subject to get hit. So anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Nirvana, Dave Grohl.
I've heard so many stories about Dave Grohl, and he's such a nice guy.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Some people, I don't know if you've seen. You're probably not interested. I don't blame you at all. Is what's going on now in the British press about Meghan Markle and Harry?
Oh yeah, I paid attention to it.
Yeah, do you know what? I was totally on their side and everything. I thought, let them have their own life and let them, be free from the royal family and all that. But God, I just saw a clip of that interview and where she called the royal family the firm, and I took a dislike to her straight away not because I'm a royalist or anything like that, but it's just like she's being so hypocritical.
But that's what they call themselves, Jake.
What's that?
That's what they call themselves. That's not her.
Firm, is it?
Yeah, that's what they call themselves.
I didn't know that actually. Yeah. But regardless, anyway, the point still stands that she wanted to be away from the spotlight, and I totally respect that. Do you know what I mean? It's not a nice life and all with all the cameras in front of you. But like, why is she putting out all the dirty laundry in front of the whole media when that was the whole point, was to just get away? You know what I mean? And I feel sorry for Harry because that's his family at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? Like, if they'd been a bad family, and I presume that happened because there's a history of that. All right, just go away, do your own thing. But like, why? Do you know what I mean? Oprah Winfrey interview, like, and just like, they were bullying me, blah, blah.
Yeah.
The way I look at it, man, is
what's that?
The way I look at it is you've got the Queen Mother or the Queen.
Yeah.
And she's had a life, I'm not a royalist, but she's had a life of servitude. You can say it a gilded cage, as Martian likes to call our profession in Turkey. A gilded cage, like where it's like this, you have everything you want, but you still can't really do anything.
Yeah.
But she has sacrificed everything. Philip has sacrificed his career, naval officer, for the life. You know what I mean? And lucky would you wished. And then it's like she says, we don't want to be part of that life anymore. We don't want the cameras, the press, or anything. Goodbye. Oh, hello, American press. Hello, Netflix. Hello, Oprah. It's like, hang on a second.
No. It's a bit hypocritical.
That's different. So in her defense, she can manage the message from this media, this press, better than she would ever have a chance of managing the press in England. And that was the thing. Harry was seeing deja vu, that the same sort of thing that happened with his mother might be the same kind of life that they were entering into. And also Meghan was trying to defend herself against allegations that she bullied staff. And that is why you would hear her use the platform now to kind of come out against it, to say, it's not really fair to, they won't let go. The British press won't let it go. Just
ignore
they're
them.
notorious. Everyone knows that.
I know, they're awful. They gut a press and stuff, but
they're filthy. They probably should just ignore it and let it.
For me, I was like, oh, let them do what they want. I think most people felt like that, but now people are like, why'd you go on an Oprah when we were all happy for you to live your own life, like you should, but why are you making a big deal out of it? And putting all. Yeah, I don't know how Harry feels about it. Well, some people will say that, Peter. But just if my family, for example, say AJ didn't like my family, she likes my family. Just put that out there as well. But then if she didn't want to, she had issues with my family and stuff, and then told everyone about it, I'd be pissed. Not just on put it on Facebook. Oh, Jake's family tormenting me, blah blah, on Facebook even. Which is our kind of level, I'd be well pissed off.
Well, if
you may not get on with them, but let's just minimize contact and be polite and cordial and just over your head. Do you know what I mean? When insults are brought up to you and stuff, over your head. But
You know what's interesting is it does sort of mirror the attention that Meghan's father was trying to, remember, like he kept inserting himself into the press because he was estranged from Meghan. And so in ways it kind of mirrors like what, you know, what you're exactly pointing out is like, hey, why don't you just stop talking about it or let it go?
Yeah.
Because you're stirring the pot.
Exactly.
You know, and it sort of does mirror, like it's almost now she's doing what her father did, and that's kind of weird. In retrospect, when I think about it, it's like, well, you know, if you did shut up and just gone about your life in California, then
happy life, get on with it,
yeah.
Get rid of your titles, and they were happy to do that, no problem. Get rid of any public funding from the UK taxpayer. Happy to do that. No problem with me. And it's like, just live your life, and you've got a very nice life. You've got lots of money. You can be a success. And then just don't do, you know, stupid interviews. You know, happy days.
Because where's the money going to come from? You can say that these Oprah and Netflix things, they're short-term fix, because after everyone gets the story, it's like, okay, what's next? What are you going to do now?
They just keep feeding the monster for like, and do you know what? It's such a, like, I remember when, was it Kate Middleton and Prince Charles were on their honeymoon in France, and this.
Well, I hope it wasn't Charles. It should have been William.
No, was it? Sorry, who was it? I see. I'm not a royalist at all.
I can't
who
believe
was it?
Camilla's like, what?
Not Camilla. No, who was it? Who's the oldest prince?
William.
Yeah. Sorry. Oh my God, I'm not caught up in royals at all.
Yeah, they.
But
Kate
Middleton
that was so
and William.
Pervy, man. Could you imagine taking a photo of a girl on her holiday?
Well, that's it.
That's
the French
so weird, dude.
Yeah, the French photographer and all was like, oh, snap, you know. And the thing is, Harry and Meghan are just fueling this whole fascination media circus about the royal family. Well, that's what they don't want, but they're adding a chapter to it. Just burn the bloody book. Do you know what I mean? But they keep writing in that, you know, oh, this is the next chapter. You know, this is, you know, in 10 years' time, this will be on The Crown.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It will be.
Yeah, Lockdown 2030. Oh, finally.
Yeah, this will be episode 9 in The Crown, season 10.
It is interesting because, you know, Harry just went on to, what's his name? He's got the Tonight Show, James
Corden.
Yeah, James Corden. So he went on and did that, like what, on Exposed Double-Decker Bus or whatever. And people were like, why the hell is he doing that if they want their privacy? Exactly. And why are they doing Oprah if they want their privacy? So I think obviously there's a long game in the public service initiatives that Harry and Meghan are probably planning. And so I think that in some way that it's a necessary evil of what they're trying to do. Like they have to promote what it is they're doing. And so I think that they want to have some type of relationship with the media and hopefully spin it in such a way that it's agreeable for them to be able to reach.
But here we go. What skills does Meghan Markle and Prince Harry and like, you know, Prince Harry served in the army and stuff. You know, he does have skills. But what skills do they have that other people don't have that can help make a difference in the world?
Well, first of all, they have access to money. Because of their influence and prestige, they're able to raise loads of cash that can be, you know, brought to bear to address whatever issues they choose to tackle. And as a voice, Harry is obviously going to get someone's ear no matter where he goes in the world, regardless of having.
I don't know, man. I don't know. You look at our former monarch who married American Mrs. Simpson. I think it was Miss Simpson. They were irrelevant, basically. I mean, you know, a couple of people visit them in their French mansion in the, you know, French countryside.
Heads of
that was it. They were pretty irrelevant.
To put a wedge between, who wanted to throw a spanner in the works of British politics It could be the Germans or the Japanese met with him.
That's true.
That was just to arouse the people back home.
Well, Hitler wanted. I mean, what's his? See, I'm terrible at royals. King George, was it?
Which one? Who are you talking about?
The one who abdicated the throne.
Oh, that was
married the American.
Edward.
Yeah,
it's King Edward, is it?
Well, yeah, I don't know if that was his title, if he was to be king, but his name was Edward, I think.
Find out now. I should know this. I love history, but just
yeah. I mean, that's the reason why Elizabeth II became queen, right? Because he had.
Yeah, so you had George, you had Bertie, King George. His real name was Albert, but he changed it to George.
Edward VIII. His
brother's name was Edward.
Yeah.
Edward VIII. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. Well. Yeah, the Nazis, you're right, mind, actually. That goes against my point. But the Nazis wanted to install him as king.
Know thy enemy. Sorry, man.
That's all right.
Know thy enemy.
That's why he knows.
I suppose he will have some influence. Like you said, the Nazis.
I'm listening to you, mate. I'm listening to you. You said about the Nazis, they said...
They discovered after the war that there was correspondence between Hitler and King Edward VIII. And it was kind of Hitler's plan was to use him as a puppet king, even though the king doesn't have much power in the UK, but as a symbol to replace the king of the time.
Hitler. And he wasn't just sympathetic. He was sympathetic to Hitler. And he wasn't just sympathetic and kind of saying oh, well, World War I, the Treaty of Versailles, blah, blah, blah. He was sympathetic deeper than that.
Yeah.
In belief system, sympathetic.
In the case of Hitler's plan, you must understand that there was every likelihood Hitler would have been able to take England. There's every likelihood that would have happened. And then you see installing or maintaining Edward in that role doesn't seem that ridiculous then.
It was a real possibility.
That's right.
And it's something... It is something for King Edward wanted for a lot.
Because he would have immediately gotten rid of Parliament, right? He would have, those guys would have been gone. So,
and I think it's hard to know really. There's a lot of speculation, but there is some evidence to say for he did want a bit more control, and he certainly wanted to go back to the UK. Do you know what I mean? As monarch, you know what I mean? So
right. Yeah.
I wonder why they just I wonder if it's just coincidence that this happened twice now with two American wives of the royal family, or if it's just, or if it is just the royal family doesn't like Americans as a potential lineage.
Well, there's the conspiracy that Grace Kelly's brakes were cut on her car. And
who's that now? Sorry.
That was the American actress who became the wife of the King of Monaco.
Yeah.
And and then and Prince Albert is the offspring of his father and Grace, and so there was this idea, and then it's kind of funny because Prince Albert married another American, and she seems fine, right? Very little chance that she's going to die in a terrible accident in the hills above Monaco, but that conspiracy is out there. And then, of course, because the power of the crown and the principality, it would be very hard to investigate that objectively as, So, maybe there is something to that. But that just sounds like conspiracy. Who knows?
I know. It could just be a coincidence,
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
In this global world, Harry could basically marry anybody he wanted to. And, their eyes met and that was it. That's all she wrote. So it's not really surprising that somebody, that's just, it's been going on for thousands of years, actually, that kings and queens and princes and princesses marry from other countries because it's just good politics, right? It's strategic alignments, unification.
Good genetics as well.
Right? Yeah. So,
and like some monarchs, you know what I mean? Like, real history, innit? I won't go into that, but
my students are reading Hamlet, so there's an interesting thing between Fortinbras of Norway and him wanting to take back the land that his father had deceived when he lost the war against Hamlet's father, and it just goes on. And then in the end of the story, it appears, for all intents and purposes, that Fortinbras winds up winning. And you don't see that coming because it's a story about whether Hamlet's going to get his revenge against his uncle. So it's really, really crazy. Yeah.
So talking about weird history facts, I found one the other day. I'm playing this game, Tomb Raider, and it's based in the Amazon. It is, so it's all Aztec influence, and you get loads of history and stuff from it as well. But one thing I found out yesterday, and I was reading it, and I was like, oh, there was this cult, okay, in the Aztec kind of religion and stuff, where there was a god. I'll get his name up in a bit now as well, but there was this god, and he was a god of many things, but one of them was skin diseases, okay? And this cult would skin their captives, human captives, and as a tradition, they would wear their captive's skin for 20 days.
Well, that's normal, man.
That's not normal. I don't know. I just, because I'm going through this whole like Aztec thing at the moment, and I like, and have you seen the death whistles?
No.
Have I seen it?
Oh my God. They sound terrifying. Let me show you one.
Yeah, that's right. Joe Rogan. I have, or something. I've seen that. Yeah, Joe Rogan had it on.
Yeah, I think so, Joe. Yeah, that's
a really crazy sounding thing.
This is what they look like. But yeah, can you all guys see? Can you see that? Right? There we go.
Yeah.
What the Aztecs used to do is they used to blow into these, and it does make a like that. That was awful.
Yeah, it's a crazy sound.
Like a real kind of scream sound.
Yeah,
that's right.
And I did some research there about Cortez, the conquistador who took on the Aztecs, and I was just like, I was thinking about it, and I was just like, it's fascinating because they are so different. That civilization is so different to so many other civilizations. You know what I mean? They quite like the whole sacrifice, and the beating heart on the top of the temple, and like the skin wearing. Do you know what I mean? The death whistles and stuff. I mean, and Cortez, the Spanish. All right, so they landed in Mexico. No Spanish has ever been into Mexico before. The guy burnt his ships behind him. He says, "We're not leaving until we get this job done." There's only there's a couple of hundred of Spaniards.
It's just like when they seized Istanbul too, right? Constantinople, they burned the ships. Yeah. We're not leaving.
They burned the ships as well, saying, yeah, we're not going.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Man, would you want to go back to Spain if you arrived on some lush paradise with these people?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I can have slavery is bad. Don't do slavery, kids. But you could say, like, I can have slaves, I can have everything like that. Would you be, and there's gold, and there's no government telling you what to do.
There's like so many resources.
Yeah, but if I start hearing death whistles,
oh, let's go back and bow to the king, or
but think you're missing out the fear factors here. It's a jungle. A lot of these Spaniards have never seen a jungle before, like dense jungle, jaguars. Yeah. This is an entire empire. You got a couple of hundred people. Yeah, there's thousands of
America. You've got guns.
Yes, they do have guns. They had horses. They had the smallpox helped them as well. Do you know what I mean? But they didn't know that when they landed.
I think
do you know what I mean?
They figured it out, though. They figured it out.
They what? But they only just won actually as well. I was reading about it today. There was like Cortez even got captured at one point in the Aztec capital and everything. He managed to escape and stuff. But God, and hearing those death. I mean, After this podcast, go and listen to the death whistle sound. It is horrifying.
I think it's something that only really works at night, though, right?
Yeah, but imagine you're in the jungle in this foreign land and you just hear this like thunder, because a lot of these Aztec warriors had these whistles, and you just hear it in the jungle of screams.
Yeah.
And you, like, you know, you might, and they be, like I said, this cult, to be fair, I don't think they were that popular, but they did wear the skins of their captors.
I think it's probably the same.
Terrifying.
Idea. I think it's the same idea that if you consume your enemy that you defeat, you sort of practice ritual cannibalism.
Yeah, it could be. They said they kept the skin as well after, and that was like an ornament. Let me find out exactly what the cult was called.
Well, I mean, you talk about skin diseases. I think if you wear somebody's dead skin mask for 20 days, there's a very good likelihood at least you're going to develop some spots.
Right? The god was called sorry, my pronunciation for
That's
anyone
okay.
who knows
I'm
this.
half Aztec, but I forgive you.
Zypitotec, his name was, Lord of the Flayed One.
Right.
So it's fascinating. I really like, I'm just getting into this Aztec stuff, and I just find it scary because a lot, like the whole sacrifice kind of thing.
Well, the Mayans, the Mayans are also pretty scary too, you know, and the Toltecs. Like there are three distinct, different like histories.
The Native Americans, man.
They worship by the Toltecs as well. Actually,
they would scalp you. I heard stories of, and I know like the sacrifice thing and beheading. That's scary, but the thing that scared me the most that I read about the Native Americans, and they're much more recent. Like we're talking about the 1800s, 1700s. You know, that they would scalp people, and not only that, they would scalp the pubic hair off women and men. So they would not just scalp the head, they would also go for the pubic hair. To get any scalp they could get, they would take.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's probably not likely you survive too long after scalping. So, you know, I'm not sure what they do first. They probably do what is most painful first. So they probably scalp your dangly bits first so that you experience that. And then they go ahead and scalp you, because, you know, when they're scalping you, they're doing it with a tomahawk, right? And a knife, a hatchet. And so if they start with the hatchet, they probably also fracture your skull, because, you know.
Yeah. And I feel like maybe we're picking on Aztecs and Native America, but like, you know, obviously Western culture, we've done some horrific bloody tortures and I mean, hand-drawn quartered, we all know that, don't we?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean that's purely English, isn't it?
Way to go.
Yeah, and also the Viking. Have you heard of this one? The Viking eagle death thing.
Yeah.
You've heard where they tie you, right?
Yeah.
And then they cut your back, and then they pull it apart like an eagle. But apparently, if you don't scream, and you can go to Valhalla. Was this man? You know what I mean? So Europeans are barbaric. Yeah, we're humans. We're just barbaric.
Well, I think you know
the point
terrorism...
of the story is to marry an American actress.
We got from Dave Grohl,
right? So
the Crown.
That's right.
To Aztecs flaying people.
Yeah. Meghan Markle. What a bitch.
I know I've got 2/3 of that title written, but yeah, this last bit with the Aztecs really takes it on, it's a real interesting spin.
Meghan Markle,
you want the god's name, I
British
can send
press,
you.
The royal family and Aztecs, Vikings sacrificing all, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Historical punishments, I suppose.
The firm.
Yeah, we're not very nice, we're humans. I love it though. I love history.
Oh!
Yeah, so he he's got some recovery ahead of him.
What happened?
I was asking Martin earlier, I was like, have you ever heard the riddle of, like, would you rather fight 100 horse-sized ducks or 1 duck-sized horse?
Okay.
You know that riddle?
No, 100 duck-sized horses, or
I was thinking, I think that's
one
an easy choice.
horse-sized duck.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather fight a horse-sized duck. I'll be honest with you.
No, I'll fight the 100 duck-sized horses.
Now, imagine
That's still 100 horsepower, Jake.
Now imagine 7 Filipino guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, like she has family, and they're all little fucking Manny Pacquiao's about 5 foot nothing.
Yeah. So they're housekeepers by day, enforcers by night.
Exactly. And I
it's
pay
funny you say that
in
because
this
the
country.
housekeeper that is in Istanbul that cleans my flat, his name is Albert. This is a different guy, not Alberto. This is Albert, and he is Filipino.
Really?
And he's the nicest guy. He could not be
him.
nicer. He's so nice.
Yeah. That's good.
What are you gonna
There
say?
was George today as well.
Well, yeah. Here, by the way, George is like uber busy with I don't know what.
Yeah. Well, I guess fathering, right?
Well, no,
we like so easily forget.
I
he's
know,
over here
yeah.
the father, like, fuck you, George. Where are you?
Like,
Watch this, man. Know that I'm angry.
He's gainfully employed, married, and a father. So I think
He needs to cut me some slack.
Yeah. You remember those days when we started to see team members, Jake, drop off for one reason or another, like Idawan dropped off for one reason or another, and then you obviously dropped off for a while there because you got married, and and then eventually moved away. So boys' night, as it used to be known, boys' night has changed significantly over the past 5 years. It's really something. It's too bad we couldn't have had Peter a lot earlier on. Just had no way.
You dropped off.
I never got on.
Yeah.
I know you dropped off before it started.
He actually started the club and then left the club before they made the Premier League. So that was a weird thing. He like founded the club and then fucked off. He didn't even know we founded the club, really.
Yeah.
No, it was always this thing between Rebecca and I, and her rehashing the times when you were there. And I felt like I just was Johnny late. I just arrived just like a month too late, so to speak. And then this idea that, oh no, he's still there. He's still here in the city. And I was like, well, as much as I run into people in this city, I'm bound to run into this Peter character. Never happened until we both.
Yeah, I never bumped into you either.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how it is circulating, but I guess you were kind of locked down in your own relationship back then too.
Yeah, but we were out and about. It wasn't like we were locked down in this kind of like, oh, we don't see anybody. You know what I mean? Like we were out and about. We'd be going to bars, restaurants, clubs. We'd even come to this side of town every weekend to go to the park.
That's strange because we used to go a lot.
And even after I left as that place, I would still play football every Tuesday and Thursday right in front of there.
Wow.
That's mad because we were
I would still be around always for 2 years after I left there. Then in the third, fourth year, I might have dropped off.
If you encountered Jake as he was jogging around the park, for example, you might have overlooked him as just being another Turk, because that was the thing about Jake, is that a lot of people felt like he was just a Turk. And so it might not have piqued your interest at all. Whereas if I had been wandering around, that probably would have had a different.
I might have noticed them.
Yeah, it was one of those weird things. And there is a possibility that this podcast is not as good as others from the past, especially how it began. It was a little awkward in the beginning because I was so unprepared for Peter's physical appearance that I kind of.
I was like, your nose is bleeding.
I was like nervous. There was nervous laughter, and then I was like, okay, it's a wind up, but at the same
yeah. He's obviously taking his role play like to the next level.
It really is.
It's okay. You don't need to go
I feel
this
like
far
this
with
should be
it.
the video. I feel like this should be the podcast where we admit that it's all a wind up. We started.
Well, if you didn't know it was a wind up in the other ones,
you took it to another level. Oh my god.
Yeah, his nose was bleeding.
You really did.
Yeah. I hope that's dry erase marker or something.
No man, that's cigarette ash.
Oh, geez, Louise.
Just every 20 minutes, just going.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's doing rails.
Oh god.
It's crazy. So we're at less than a minute now. I want to thank everybody for joining us.
Pleasure as always.
Another special edition with my friends Jake and with Peter, who hopefully will make it through the weekend. Hey, we got a weekend without a lockdown. Mm-hmm. That means we can, when I break my fast tomorrow night, I'll be able to drink. So that'll be fun. And yeah.
I'm working tomorrow.
Oh, that's a drag. I'm sorry to hear that. We're back at school, and it's hell. Back at school, it's hell.
Oh,
I'm
yeah, that's
land
true.
Tomorrow, buddy. I'm looking at land tomorrow.
You're looking at what?
Land.
Plans?
Land. He's looking to buy some real estate.
Land.
Oh, land.
Tomorrow morning.
Where to?
To Vichlik.
Where's that?
Yenny here near TED College.
Oh, okay.
All right. Yeah. No, it's good. Yeah.
That's why I wanted to go to bed early.
Okay.
But
so
it's a good investment.
I'm still going to do this bullshit every podcast. So
is it? Yeah. Is it undeveloped land? Like there's no property?
Undeveloped.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good buy.
Yeah, it's a good investment.
If you can get it. Yeah, if you can get it.
Yeah.
How much is it selling for?
I don't know. Going to see tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we buying house-sized land where they can build houses, or?
Don't know.
And that's the trick is to sit on a piece of undeveloped land and see if it gains value as property around it develops, for example. Then that
before we go, there was never a